Hi, Paul.
Hello, Barbara.
How are
How are you
you?
this morning? I'm good. I'm good.
Good. It's nice to see you.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It has been. I'm
Yep.
sure you're keeping busy, though. You ride your bike everywhere. I'm wondering if during this last several months time period where we have had stay-at-home orders, does it feel different to you in the air? When you do get out, when you have to get out, maybe to do shopping or something?
No, that doesn't feel different so much. Though I must admit that when things first shut down, I found myself more interested in walking than riding, and sorely confused some of my neighbors who didn't realize I could get around on 2 feet, not just two wheels. But yeah, it's been much the same. I mean, I certainly walking, I see more people on the street than I would normally expect to see.
Yeah,
More people walking.
right, right.
Yeah.
Well, when I think back, now MJTC is in its 25th year.
Hmm.
It's amazing. You have been with the Minnesota Jewish Theater Company for 25 years.
Yep. I saw the announcement that you were starting it, and I made an appointment with you to meet, but I had a schedule conflict, so I couldn't design the first show. I designed the second one.
Yes.
I've designed
And
over 70
I'm
since.
sorry,
And I've designed over 70 since.
I was going to ask you if you had any count over
Yeah.
70.
Yep.
Well, one thing that I don't think I will ever forget is how respectful you were of our small budgets and our fiscal responsibility. There was a situation very early on where we needed a gobo. And I've learned a lot from you along the way. I think you had to tell me what a gobo was, but we needed a gobo, and you probably saw my face when you told me it would cost, I don't know, $20 or something.
Probably more like 10, actually.
Okay. And you said, it's okay, I think I can make it, right? Can
Oh,
you,
one of the handmade ones. Oh my.
yes. You said, as long as you can give me some aluminum foil, I will make it. And you did.
Yeah.
Well, most recently, and maybe in a few minutes you can talk a little bit more technically about gobos and the work you do, but most recently, a few of the shows you've done were Hanukkah Lights in the Big Sky and Shul, and
Hmm.
What I Thought I Knew. Two of those three were based on true events. And one thing that I read that you said in something that was published by Commonweal Theater was that from the get-go, one of the things that you think about is what the piece, the intent is behind the piece, the meaning the script is trying to convey. Can you talk about that and about your process?
Um, yeah. Process for me, the starting point to me is always the script. And so I will read the script, and I'll usually have a notepad beside me to write down any lighting thoughts that occur to me or any other thoughts that occur to me. But my first reading of the script, it's not to write down anything. It's just to read the script, understand what the story is, see how I react to it as a story, as a piece of theater, not as a lighting job. Then I'll go back a second, and that's important to me because it's the one time when I have some chance of experiencing the show the way the audience will experience it. The second time through, when I'm starting to make lighting notes, I know what the ending is. I know some of the details. It's never going to be the same. And so I try and protect that first pass. Like I said, then I'll start thinking about lighting the show. Some of the reality aspects of it. Is it day? Is it night? Is it inside? Is it outside? Is there a lamp that's specified in the script? Some of those technical kind of mundane details, but I'll also think more about what the show might be visually. And that's, of course, going to change a lot once I have discussions and meetings with the director, hear what the set designer is going to say about it. And you mentioned the fact that two of the last three shows that I've done have been based on real events, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be presented in the theater at all realistically. They may be completely abstract, completely unrealistic. And so I have to think about what that means for the lighting. But ultimately, what I feel like my job is as the lighting designer is to contribute to the storytelling. And whatever that may mean, I never know. I really sometimes have no idea what it's going to be.
Right. And just having been a part of production work, I know that the tenor of the show, the aesthetic feel of it, is dictated in part by the lighting, and conversely, or complementary, also by the director's intent and what they want to bring forward.
Yeah. How the audience reacts may be dictated by the lighting in part, but that is in turn dictated by the director and all of the other designers, and what I can do to enhance their work when that's the right thing to do, or create a lighting effect that's more obvious when that's the right thing to do. But I tend to have a lighter touch than many designers. I'm not that personally interested in what I'll call flash and trash, making the lighting be a thing. And so that's my choice, my preference, why I do the sort of theater that I do, and why I don't do some of the theater that I don't do.
I know that some of the moments that have touched me so much have been the holiday shows that you've lit, and often the last 5 minutes we have a change in time into the evening, the beautiful stars or lights that come out, lighting candles during the holiday show in the dark, and you see candles, and it's really beautiful the way you've created that in the sky on for the setting. And I guess that's why maybe I always remember these gobos, because you need those, right, to create stars and a moon, things like that.
Yeah, and that's, I'm always looking for the edge on that, between, again, supporting the show, supporting the story, telling the story, and stepping a little bit too far and having the lighting call attention to itself. And you're more aware of it because you're in the business and you've seen my work. And so you're sometimes watching for it in a way that an audience might not watch for it. A good example is, in fact, Hanukkah lights in the big sky that you mentioned. At the end of the play, the family and friends light the Hanukkah candles, but it's in the world of the whole town being behind them and lighting Hanukkah candles. And so what I do for that show is I think it's 4 different sets of pinholes, small lights scattered around the backdrop. And it's probably a minute to a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, that first a few lights appear, and then a few more, and then a few more. So it's a growing thing that's happening. Right. It's not just, oh, there are lights everywhere. And creating that growth slowly enough that the audience doesn't notice the steps of the growth, and and slowly enough that it doesn't distract from the principals on stage who are lighting candles, and yet a strong enough effect that you realize, oh my goodness, the whole town is lighting candles with them.
Yes.
And
Although
that's very telling.
it's really quite wonderful to hear school groups, the children in school groups,
Oh yeah.
at moments like that, when they notice it. Or in the magic dreidels when the stars come out at night and you hear the kids half under their breath, look at the stars, there are stars. It's really great.
Yeah, never being at those school shows, I don't have the knowledge you do, but it'd be interesting to know if the light cue lasted, let's say, 2 minutes. Did you start hearing a few kids in the first 10 seconds? Or was it even half a minute before anybody spoke up? And then it just all came, how that builds differently for different people.
Right, and it probably does, depending on
Yeah.
the age and their attention, things like that.
Yeah.
Is there a typical path for someone to become a lighting designer? I know your path into the business, I'm guessing, was a little unusual. Would you share that with us? And then is there a typical route?
Well, yeah, my path was that when I was in high school, theater seemed interesting, but I was too academically focused to ever get involved in the high school theater program. I got to college, and I went to Carleton, which at the time did not have a theater department, but had a very active theater program, because the students who go to Carleton, who went to Carleton, many of them did theater in high school and were not about to want to give it up. So the college kind of had to have that to get the students that they wanted. Here I was on campus and said, oh, well, now there's a chance to do this because I'm living on campus. This is my whole life, not just part of my life. So let's find out about this theater. And so I signed up, and I got called to make props for a show, and that was kind of fun.
Props? I didn't know that, Paul.
Yeah, that was the first thing I did, helped on props. And then I got called to be on the stage crew for a show, and that was kind of fun. And I went to an audition, and that was an utter disaster in myriad ways.
You didn't enjoy that?
No, I did not. Not the least of which is that it happened to be a rainy night, and somebody else thought they needed my umbrella more than I needed it. And then I got called to help out on lights for a show, and wow, that was really cool. And that's how I got into lighting. And for my sophomore year, I had talked to one of my fellow students who was going to direct a show in the small theater, and I was going to come back and light that show for her. And then I got back to campus that fall, and the head of Players Lighting asked if I would do the second show of the season in the big theater.
Oh.
And I kind of hemmed and hawed, having never done it before. And she explained that lighting designer number 1 was going to be stage managing the second show. And lighting designer number 2 was going to be in the second show. And lighting designer number 3 had realized he better buckle down and work on his physics or he wasn't going to graduate come the next spring. So I was the only one left. I had to do it.
What show is it?
It was The Country Wife by William Wickerly. And so I tackled it, not really knowing what I was doing, but being willing to experiment and find out. And I enjoyed it. And later that fall, I went back and did the show in the small theater, in the small space. And that's kind of been my theatrical home ever since.
Well, you did detour a little bit. You got a master's degree and a PhD, right?
Well, that was my theatrical home. Academically, yeah, I majored in math and physics while I was at Carleton. I got a master's and a PhD from Rice University in electrical engineering. and actually went to work for General Motors Corporation in their research labs outside of Detroit for several years. Kept doing lighting, did it throughout college, grad school, and while I was working for General Motors, I found a community theater near me and worked with them. And then realized that I liked knowing about science and engineering more than I liked doing it. And so I left General Motors and some months later found a job for a small professional theater in Detroit, similar to to Mixed Blood here in town.
What theater was that?
It was the Attic Theater. And they had formed about the same time that Mixed Blood formed, actually, sometime in the mid-70s. And I came to them in 1981, I guess it was. Stayed with them for 11 years.
Oh.
Thinking that, well, do I want to do this theater thing professionally as a job or just as a side thing? But, well, I don't have anything else particular that I want to do, so let's give this a try. And in 5 years, I'll have either figured out that I don't want to do it, or I'll have moved on and left Detroit and be doing it somewhere else.
And here you are.
11 years later, I finally left Detroit and came to the Twin Cities. And I've been at it here for, let's see, this is 28 years now, almost 28 years here in the Twin Cities.
I have so much respect for your approach that you do lighting design on projects that interest you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been at this long enough to not feel like I need to do every show that I can possibly do.
Right.
And my interests are wide enough, even within theater, that I like to hang lights as much as I like to design them. I like to run shows as much as I like to create them. And so I'm not completely dependent on my lighting design to keep me busy. And so I can make the choice that if a show doesn't appeal to me at the script stage, then I'd rather not do it. Partly because I don't want to spend the number of hours it will take doing something I'm not interested in.
Sure.
And partly because I believe that if I'm not interested in it, I'm probably not just going to do as good a job. As much as I respect the process and will do my best, there's going to be a lack. And so better that somebody who wants to do it should do it.
Right.
Unfortunately, I make that choice.
Yeah, we're in a time right now where so many people are using Zoom and different video platforms for communicating. Do you have any advice on how one should prepare to best light themselves?
The simple answer is, why would you ever think of asking me? In a theater, it can be perfectly correct to put one light behind and above somebody, which leaves their face completely in the black, which is probably a terrible idea for your Zoom meetings, but it's right, in the right place. Now, more seriously, the main thing is to not have any deep shadows if you can avoid them. Have a number of lights in the room, or at least a bright enough room that that you don't have a lot of contrast, and that the room isn't a lot brighter than your face is and than you are. As an example, just looking at this video, you, Barbara, are clearly lit more from one side than the other, but the side that is less bright is still plenty bright enough to see. It doesn't look like you're in sharp shadow.
I'm looking around trying to figure that out, but I think it's because there's windows on that side.
Yeah, probably. And in my case, I've got one light over there, and I've got another light over there, and I've got another light up there, and the window is off that way. And so I kind of, they all mix to give me a reasonably uniform lighting, not high contrast, but some variation. And so those are the sort of things to think about, to not get it all from one side. And yeah.
Right, right. Well, it's great to catch up with you this morning, Paul.
Yeah, nice to see you too as well.
I guess we'll have to look forward to talking in person.
Yeah. One thing I can go back and answer that I kind of got caught up in telling my own path of becoming a lighting designer. But you also asked about typical paths. And I honestly don't know if there's a typical path, but some of the other paths are people who discover it in high school or even younger sometimes, and get the passion the same way I did and just keep doing it and learning more as they do. There are books that you can read on theatrical lighting design as well as technology. You can go to college and study theater and take lighting design, and you can come out with an undergraduate degree and use that as your jumping off point. You can go to grad school and get a Master of Fine Arts. And people with that are more likely to end up doing bigger scale, higher level productions, up to and including Broadway, certainly. But there are also people who get into it from a technical point of view, and as electricians hanging lighting, setting up lighting, and have no interest in going towards design and are more than happy to be the technicians, and others who find that they do tech a while and they start seeing what other designers do and thinking, oh, I could do that, and finding a place, sometimes a community theater, sometimes a small professional theater that'll give them a chance. So there are all sorts of different ways. Which one is typical, which way is common, I have no idea.
Well, I know that more than once I commented to you over the years how I know so little about lighting and maybe I should go to school for it. But I think I'll leave that up to you. You can handle
Fair enough.
Thanks again, Paul.
Okay, you're welcome.
Talk to you soon.